Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sam, and on this channel I like to discuss Blu-rays and physical media and just films in general and the things I've been watching. And this is the second episode in my watch list sort of series in which I just go over some of the things I've been watching recently, what I thought about them and whether I could recommend them or sort of associate them with various films that have come out in the past. So it's spooky season as this video is being released, so a lot of my viewing habits have been directed towards the horror genre, but across various different eras of cinema. So and there's also a few non-horror items that I'm going to sort of share with you because I didn't want to just bombard myself with just horror films this month. But the first film that I watched that I thought was really great is a silent film from 1920, and it's called The Golem. So this is a German expressionist horror film that surrounds the mythology of the Golem, and this is actually a remake of a Golem film that came out in Germany, I think in 1915, and then it was remade again a few years later. But these films didn't have too much success, so they tried again with the same filmmakers and actor who plays the Golem. So it's really interesting to see sort of the first sort of remakes that were being made at the dawn of the medium, to be honest. But this is a really interesting film that uses sort of tinting on the film stock to really sort of accentuate some of the moods that they're going for in particular scenes. And yeah, I was fully immersed in this world from the beginning till end. And yeah, there's an array of special features on this Eureka Masters Cinema disc which just let you appreciate the release so much more. And yeah, this is a 4K restoration of the original film materials, which makes this film look pristine. I can't believe we have films like this from 100 years ago that look so good that we can enjoy in the modern age that would otherwise never be seen again. So if you're into silent cinema or you want to see sort of the origins of horror, because this sort of predates the universal horror films that came out in the 30s like Frankenstein and Dracula and things like that, and this was definitely very influential on those pictures. So yeah, that's The Golem, and I really recommend this one. Next up is something a little different, and it's a box set that's been sat on my shelf for way too long. Yeah, it's from Arrow Video, and it is Shunya Ito's The Female Prisoner Scorpion set. I've only watched the first film in this box set. There's 4 films, and it comes with a really nice booklet as well, which has got some fantastic artwork in it. There's only 4,000 of these made, but you can now get a sort of non-special edition version of it that has different artwork on the front, and it doesn't come with the booklet, fortunately, but you still get the films and the special features included. So this is essentially a women in prison exploitation film that has elements that venture into like surrealist and even horror type elements in it, which I found really interesting. And the protagonist in this film is Meika Keiju. I've butchered that name probably, but she's more famously known as playing the main character in Lady Snowblood, and she's really good in this. I have to say, even though these films have been, well, the first film is the only one I can speak of, it's been restored from a 2K transfer, 2K like scan. The film didn't look amazing, but I think that's basically due to the stock and the materials that they had to work with from the restoration. It didn't detract from the viewing experience too much, but yeah, this was a really sort of fun sort of Japanese exploitation film, and you'd probably enjoy this if you like some of the Jack Hill exploitation films or blaxploitation films that starred Pam Grier. There's some similar elements to it, although these films do this. Well, the one I've seen ventures more into sort of surreal elements, which is hard to describe. But if you see this film, you'll know what I'm on about. But yeah, I'm really excited to delve into the other films in this box set. And yeah, I recommend this based on the first film at least. And I'll give you my thoughts on the rest of them as I watch them. Again, next film is something a little different again. And again, it's been sat on my shelf for way too long, and I should have watched it sooner because I absolutely love this film. And it's a musical from 1944 starring the glamorous Rita Hayworth, and that is CoverGirl. It also stars Gene Kelly as well in one of his earlier roles, and this is a marvellous Technicolor musical. This film looks stunning. This is a type of film that would really benefit from a 4K restoration and sort of disc release, because the colours that the HDR would make pop on screen would just be amazing. The use of colour in this is just, yeah, it's awesome. And the film follows Rita Hayworth, who basically works in sort of like a nightclub as like a cabaret type dancer, singer, and she's spotted by a guy who runs the business for like Broadway shows, and she gets her face put on a magazine, which is why the film's called CoverGirl, and it's about her sort of her journey in sort of moving from the small time to the big time, and how she may or may not lose some of her friends along the way and forget who she is. So the story's been told a million times, but the songs and the choreography, and as I mentioned, the costumes and the set design really took advantage of the Technicolor technology at the time, and this film still looks beautiful today. There's a really good special feature in here with Baz Luhrmann, famous for like Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet, and he was really influenced by this film, and you can see why. But yeah, this is really good, and I'd really recommend it for anyone who likes musicals in general. But this is one of the few musicals from that era that I've ever seen, and I was thoroughly impressed with it, and it's something I can see myself watching again in the future. Boy, I'm really mixing up these sort of mini reviews. Going from a 1944 musical to a 1981, I think this came out in 81, Italian horror film by the godfather of gore, and that's Lucio Fulci with his film The Beyond. So I went into this film with a lot of expectation. So far in my journey of watching Lucio Fulci films, I've been thoroughly impressed, particularly his earlier films, like Don't Torture a Duckling and The Woman in the Lizard's Skin, are just absolutely amazing. And I do like a lot of his sort of late 80s work, early 80s work as well. Zombie Fleshy is an incredible zombie film with one of my favourite music scores in cinema history. It's just so good. This left a little to be desired, in my opinion. As always with Lucio Fulci, there is amazing, if you can call them amazing, gore sequences that make you cringe, that make you want to be sick, that are really quite a treat in a weird and disturbing way that only like horror fans know and appreciate, I think. And there are some great set pieces in this film, there's no doubt. But the last film from Fulci I saw was it was The New York Ripper, which was fantastic, albeit extremely misogynistic, but entertaining still. But yeah, after Zombie Fleshy I think is quite a superior film to this. I don't know why this one didn't quite click with me. I didn't particularly enjoy the music, which I think is a very important driving point in some of these types of Italian genre films. The music can make or break them. And yeah, the plot just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Not that you come to these films for a decent story, but it's just mind-boggling how little lack of coherence there is here. But yeah, that being said, it's worth a watch. If you've seen any Fulci films, I'm sure you've probably seen this one already. But if you haven't, and you've maybe stuck to more of his giallo type things, I wouldn't go with this one. I'd probably go to Zombie Flesh Eaters first. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. But yeah, this is not one that I'm going to be rushing to rewatch in the future. Keeping on the theme of horror, going to be talking about another Arrow release, quite a lot of Arrow here, and it is a sort of forgotten horror film, sort of from the VHS era. I don't believe it ever had a DVD or a Blu Ray release before Arrow put this out. And it was actually filmed in 1980 or 81, and then it wasn't picked up and released in the US until 84, and then it didn't really get a really good reception when it came out, and then it was just basically lost to obscurity until Arrow picked it up last year, I think, and they sort of restored it and then toured it on some horror festivals, or horror film festivals and things like that. I think it was at the Texas Frightmare Fest or something like that, and that is The Prey. So this is basically a run-of-the-mill kids camping in the woods slasher film. But this film, oh, I'm laughing about it just thinking about the film. This film has some bizarre things in it. Basically, there are shots in this film, and lengthy ones, and in multiple times throughout the film, of just nature and animals in the woods. You could cut those bits out and put them together, and you would have probably a 30-minute nature documentary. I kid you not. And the first few times I saw these clips, I was like, maybe there's some sort of artistic thing they're going for somewhere along the lines, and maybe it will make itself clearer as time goes by, but it doesn't. And these scenes keep interspersing in between sort of the action that's happening in the woods and the killer and things like that, and it is just baffling. And when these scenes started appearing more and then throughout the film, it just made me laugh, which obviously wasn't the intent. And there are some scenes with like the actual actors and stuff in this film that are quite hilarious, which clearly weren't meant to be. I don't feel like it was tongue-in-cheek at all, but I don't care. Like, I still was laughing quite a lot through watching this, and it really is one of those instances, in my opinion, because it can be very subjective, like a bad film that's funny because it's bad, as opposed to a bad film just being terrible in general. But yeah, this one made me laugh. It's a bit slow in places, but it has some great shots of nature and animals in the woods and stuff. And there's some really great actually sort of interviews with the cast, because some of the cast had never even seen the film. They filmed it. It was like one of their first acting gigs they've ever got, and then the film obviously wasn't released for like 3 or 4 years after they made it, and then it was only limited release anyway, so some of the people who were involved in this film never got to see it until like recently. And it's just really interesting to see their opinions on the film after watching it all these years. It's quite funny. But yeah, if you're a fan of anything like The Burning or the Friday the 13th films, particularly the early ones, you'll probably get a kick out of this. It's probably not as action-packed as those ones, but it's worth watching for the humour, the unintentional humour in it, and the special features really do add to the whole film in general, with like the interviews with the cast and stuff. It's that made me laugh, just some of the interviews and stuff. It's really good, and I could see myself watching this one again and finding it even funnier the next time I watch it, because of like I now know the tone of the film throughout the whole thing. So yeah, that's Prey. And lastly, switching up to something a bit different again, is a documentary that was put out by Arrow Academy, and it is Serge Bromberg's Henri-Georges Clouzot's Inferno, or L'Enfer. So this was basically a production of a film from 1964 that was basically abandoned, like halfway through, if you could say that, halfway through the production. It stars Romy, I can't say her name, I'm going to try and pronounce it, Romy Schneider. I probably butchered that. And yeah, the film uses sort of the film canisters that were discovered some 40 years after the production ceased to be. And yeah, Serge Blumberg and a bunch of other people sort of put the footage together, including interviewing the cast and crew who were involved with the production, and also getting some actors to play out scenes that weren't filmed, like on a stage, to sort of intersperse it with some of the stuff that's in it. And it's really hard to describe how this film was presented, but it's fascinating. That some of the imagery in this film really is up there with some of the best I've seen, like, ever. Like, I cannot believe that this film was abandoned. It was filmed in colour and black and white. So the basic premise of the film, what I got from the documentary, is it follows a couple that are on holiday at like an exclusive hotel, and the husband is extremely jealous of her wife and who she's seeing and where she's going, and it's basically about this man's descent into madness. And during like the normal scenes, or like the reality scenes, it's all filmed in colour, all filmed in black and white, sorry. But when he's like having fantasies or imagining his wife doing things or things like that, it's in colour. And oh my, the effects that they pull off in this film, it's just amazing. I absolutely was in awe of it, and it's such a shame that this film never came to sort of a conclusion, and it was abandoned due to creative differences as well as illness as well. Henri Georges Clouzot became ill on set, and that basically stopped production outright. And then he only ever made one more film after this. But yeah, if you're interested in film history from a master, I mean, Henri Georges Clouzot's made some of the best films ever, like The Wages of Fear and Les Diaboliques, to name a couple. This really could have been something special, and it's just a great testament to a great filmmaker who was very troubled at the time. And yeah, it's an amazing film, and I highly recommend it. So that's it for this episode of my watch list. I hope you enjoyed, and maybe there was something that I showed you that like piqued your interest and you'd be interested in watching at some point. If you like this sort of content, then please consider liking the video and leaving a comment below. Tell me what you've been watching recently, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe so you know when another video is posted. So until next time, take care.